Welcome back to another episode of our entitled People, where you'll hear stories about people who truly believe that nobody else matters in life but them. My friends, I hope you're having a great day today, and it's about to get a little bit better if you enjoy these entitled people stories. So, in this episode, you're going to hear 5 ridiculous stories. The first is an entitled woman who calls the cops on OP because he wouldn't give her child his bike. The second story, a Karen gets a little bit more than she bargains for when wanting to cut in line at a supermarket. And the third story is an entitled sister who doesn't understand why OP won't house her child for free, because family should always do that for one another, right? My friends, buckle up for this ride because it's another wild one. I hope you stay for the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future entitled people stories. Let's dive in. This first story is titled, Kid Finds a Bike in My Backyard. Mom Goes Berserk When I Take It Back. So, a little bit of backstory. I'm a single parent. I have a beautiful girl that's turning 5 in August. The past year I've been fighting with an ex that tried to keep my kid away from me. Lawyers aren't cheap, and being single doesn't exactly help with my finances. A couple of months ago, I won the lawsuit and finally got to have my kid at my home again. For the past few weeks, she was saying that she wanted a bicycle, but since I was still recovering from the lawsuit and bills, I wasn't able to afford it. So the past week, I got my summer bonus, which finally gave me the financial boost I needed. So yesterday, I was able to buy my little girl her bike that she wanted so badly. I enjoyed my time with her riding our bikes, but then it was getting close to dinner time, which I still had to make. So, we head back home and park the bikes in the backyard. We go inside and I start making dinner. After about 10 minutes, I spot movement in the corner of my eye through the kitchen window. I see this kid, I'm guessing 6 or 7 years old, just casually strolling by with the brand new bike that I just got today. My heart dropped. I run to the front door hoping I'd catch him before he rides away. I was lucky, I did. I pulled the bike out of his hands and freaked out to him, saying that it was mine and he had no right to just walk into other people's backyard to take things. I was angry. I forced him to get off my property and set the bike inside my front hallway thinking it's over, and boy was I wrong. After comforting my little girl that had never seen me this angry, I returned to the kitchen to continue making dinner. 15 minutes later, the doorbell rings. It's the kid and his mother. The conversation goes like this. The mother says, "You give my boy his bike back. He said he found it and you took it away from him. It's his." I told her, "He found it in my backyard. I just bought it for my daughter today. You should try teaching your kid that he shouldn't trespass on other people's property to take their things." The mother responded, "Don't tell me how to raise my kid. Give me the bike back, or I'm calling the police." I laughed and said, "Call the police," and slammed the door in her face. By this point, my 4-year-old's crying her eyes out as she's thinking that she's losing her brand new bike. Her sobbing is finally over. I try to continue making dinner yet again, and with preparations done, I'm about to put it all on the stove when I hear the doorbell again. I storm to the door, thinking it's the woman again. I violently open it, getting ready to just explode into her face. And guess what? She actually called the cops. I instantly calm down when I see it's the police and invite one of the 2 officers inside while the other stays with the woman. I explain the situation and show him the box the bike came in, along with the receipt that has my name on it. He shrugs and apologized for the inconvenience, and assured me that I won't be bothered again. I let him out and closed the door with a smug smile on my face. I check the front window to see what's happening, and I see her go into a full tantrum. It ends with her in handcuffs and on the back seat of the patrol car. I don't know what happened to her, and I don't care. I finally finished dinner, and my kid still has her bike, and that's all that matters to me. Boy, what a day. Do people still do finders keepers nowadays? If my hypothetical child ever rolled a random bike home, I'd make him take it back to where he found it. 1, because it probably belongs to someone, and 2, you never know where that bike has been or who's looking for it. I don't need to be attracting people to my door looking for a bike that my kid happened to roll home. What the heck did she think the police were going to do for her? Make Op give her back the bike that her child stole from his yard? Talk about entitled, my friends. Talk about entitled. This next story is entitled Mom Wants to Skip the Line, Gets a Lot More Than She Wanted. So before I dive into the story, 35 degrees Celsius is about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. A need-to-know detail. It was about 35 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 44. It's an important detail for later. So, I was standing in line at the checkout at my local supermarket. I think in total I had about 10 items, some frozen goods, drinks and snacks. At this time, the woman at the cash register was taking care of the payment of one client, and there was one person in front of me. And suddenly, she appeared, the entitled woman in this story. Now, honestly, she didn't look like it. She didn't even give off a mean vibe or anything. Even the way she started talking to me was overall nice and polite at first. She said, "Excuse me, do you mind if I skip ahead? I'm in a hurry." Now, in general, if somebody politely asks me this and I don't have any urgent business of my own, I usually don't mind. This time, however, I didn't have that many groceries, so her delay would be at most a few minutes, while she was pushing a fully loaded shopping cart in front of her. If I were to let her skip, I'd probably be in the store for another 10 to 20 minutes. So, I politely decline, and I tell her that I will hurry as much as I can. Of course, this was a great offense. I had not given this woman her entitlement, and she blew up instantly. She was yelling and screaming at me that she was in a hurry, and I'm not kidding here. She had to be home in time for her shows. Now, at this time, I would like to point out that during this rant, she only said she needed to be home in time for shows and that they were very important to her. There was nothing else making this urgent for her. This is important for later. Now, while this woman was going off, the person at the cash register went into full ignore mode and just started scanning my groceries while I was loading it in the bag. The entitled woman was going on about how I was garbage and they should ban me from the store. Now, this should have been the end of it. Just turn around and go home and forget this all happened. But then she said something that, 1, made me almost want to kill her, and 2, made this a postable story. While I was walking away, just about to put my earbuds back in, she yells, "If you pass by my car, tell my son that you're the reason he has to wait another half hour for me." Now, I'm not an extremely smart person, but in this moment, my brain made some connections quickly. What I realized was this. 1, again, it was very hot outside. 2, this woman had been in the store for a while, judging by the amount of groceries. 3, the entire parking lot of the store almost had no shade. And 4, it was about 2 p.m., so the sun was just over its peak. It was very hot outside. I rush outside and start running past cars, scanning them for kids inside, and thankfully, one of the first cars I pass has a small child laying in the back seat. This kid is as pale as a ghost, and it looked like he was only half conscious. I run back inside, and to my utter astonishment, this woman is having a conversation with the cashier while she's checking out her groceries. I grab her by the shoulders, spin her around, and almost yell into her face that her kid is literally dying in her car. I told her, "If you don't do something right now, I'm smashing in your windows and calling the cops." At first, she looked at me in complete confusion, probably never been spoken to like that before in her life. Then the realization of what I told her sunk in, and she rushed outside. While she went outside, a man tapped me on the shoulder and asked what happened. I explained the situation, leaving out the bit at the cash register and just saying how I saw the kid in the car and I knew this woman was probably the owner. He went outside, and when I came outside, the entitled woman suddenly rushed to me and got into my face, saying I was the reason she was in the store for so long and her son's current condition was my fault. Before I can even respond, the man that approached me earlier speaks up. It turns out this man was an off-duty cop. He also said that he already called an ambulance for the kid and the cops for her. I don't know what happened to the entitled woman, but she completely crashed. She just sat down on the pavement and started shaking her head, not saying much except the occasional sob or "not my fault." As for the ending, everything turned out okay for most parties. I stayed a while to give a statement to the cops and my contact info just in case it went to court. The kid was okay afterwards, and since his mom got arrested, they had to call his dad or another family member to accompany him to the hospital. As for the entitled woman, not sure if she'll just get a fine or jail time. What the heck is this woman thinking? This story actually angers me so much, the fact that she left a helpless child in a vehicle on a hot day and was telling Op how she was rushing home to watch her shows. Like, priorities, please. I'm so glad everything turned out to be okay. OP is a freaking hero. This story is titled, "My Entitled Sister Wants Me to House My Niece for Free During Uni." My niece had to move back in with her mother after the lockdown started. She lost her job, and all of her classes were online. Her lease was month to month, so she didn't have to worry about breaking her lease. Recently, the schools have reopened, and she has started attending classes again. The problem is her apartment, which was walking distance from the university, is now rented. Parking in the area sucks, and it's an hour away from her mother's house on public transit. I will say now that my niece is also incredibly spoiled and is taking classes for a degree with no practical benefits. By this, I mean that it will in no way help her with the career path, nor are they necessary courses for further education. I got a call from my sister asking if my niece could live with me, because I live alone in a 2-bedroom house and I'm a 15-minute bus trip away from her uni. I said no for several reasons. I work nights and need to sleep during the day. My niece is a very loud young woman and doesn't understand the concept of an indoor voice. The last time she stayed in the same home as me, I was sleep deprived because of her practically yelling on her phone, and it affected how I did my job, resulting in a write-up. My niece is also a very messy person. I helped with the move out, and the memory still makes me shudder. Some of the unwashed dishes in the sink were tossed because they were beyond cleaning. While I may have a 2-bedroom home, the second room is my office and work room. I've been in the process of making wire wrap necklaces to sell online for extra income, and I need the extra area as workspace. It's also my library, for lack of a better word. I keep my collection of novels on bookshelves in there and a comfy old recliner for reading it. My niece is allergic to cats, and I have 3. My sister seems to think that I can keep them all either in my bedroom or locked up in the basement for the school year. And this is the big one. My older sister is under the belief that my niece would not have to help out with any household expenses or be expected to cook for herself. She also thinks that my niece should not have to get a job while in school to focus on her studies. She tried to pull the whole "we're family and should help each other out" card. The only way that I would agree for my niece to live with me is if she were to give me $250 a month to help cover utilities and a part of the internet. I figured that that's a steal, considering a cheap place around her school is more than double or even triple that plus utilities, and she could use the garage for her car for free. Now I'm getting texts from both sisters telling me that I'm a horrible person and that I should open up my home to this. They told me that it's unreasonable to expect a 19-year-old to spend 2 hours on the bus every day and yada yada. A part of me feels guilty because I could move my office and workspace down into the basement, but I can't afford the expense of a second person in my home without them chipping in for the bills, nor will I lock my cats away in their home. I absolutely love when entitled people use the family line in the stories. But you're family. You should do this for us. Being related to somebody does not mean that you should always do anything and everything for them. This story is titled, "My Mother Demands My $1 Million Inheritance, Says That I Owe Her for Raising Me as a Single Mother. When I was really young, my parents divorced. It was not pretty. They fought often, usually over money. Eventually, they separated, and my dad moved out. After a while, my dad moved out of the country, back to Hong Kong, where he was born and raised, to help out with a family business. This left my mom to raise myself on her own for over 10 years. She was bitter over the split, but did her best to keep food on the table. She worked multiple jobs and made sure that I was never wanting in regards to food, shelter, and clothing. However, because of this bitterness, I think my mom felt that she always needed more, that she was so hardworking that she deserved more. I could see that she became envious of some of her friends who were better off, especially the ones with bigger houses, nicer cars, and more luxurious lifestyles. Whenever one of them put their kids in some kind of lesson like dance or music, I was also enrolled not long after. It got to the point where whatever money she made, she would spend on material goods for herself for that little bit of happiness, rather than making sure our necessities were covered. More on this later. As a kid, I did not understand, but as an adult, I can kind of see where the good intent was initially, and then her inner demons just took over her life. Anyway, with my mom working lots, it also meant that she was not home most of the time. The extra jobs took a toll on her and affected our relationship. We were constantly fighting and arguing most of the time. It was over nothing, just silly petty things that a teenager would get mad at. Therefore, our bond was never that strong. It was strained and trickled into my adulthood. I did not talk to her often after I moved out, nor did she try to reach out to me. We went on years without seeing each other, mostly talked through texting, and sometimes called. The only time she called me up is because she wanted something, like to borrow money or if I could buy something for her. And most of the time I obliged because, well, she is my mother. With my father I was not very close with him either because he was halfway around the world and I could only see him once every 2 or 3 years, and I talked to him on the phone or exchanged emails once in a while, but he kind of tried. Things in my life took a turn for the worst when I was in my mid-20s. My father had suddenly passed away from a heart attack, and I had traveled to Hong Kong for his funeral. It was bittersweet having to say goodbye, but I will not bore you with those details. While I was there, I did see a lot of childhood aunties and uncles that I had not seen in many years. I was gone for maybe a week before I flew back home. After a while, I was contacted by my dad's lawyer and was told that he had left me a large sum of money and some family valuables in his will. There was a whole bunch of legal details and things that needed to be done, especially since I am not a Hong Kong citizen, and it took a very, very long time to figure this out. But that is not what this story is about. When it happened, I called my mom and told her about my father's passing. She was good about it, did not make any snarky comments or anything like I thought she would. She did not come with me to the funeral either, as she was a full-time caretaker for my grandfather who was bedridden, and we could not find someone to help at the time. Not too long after my return from the funeral, she called me up again to see how it went and how I was holding up. It started as a nice conversation, but it was not too long into the phone call before I found out what my mom was up to. Please keep in mind that I am speaking to my mom in our native language, so this is a rough translation of it all. She said, "I was talking to Auntie Debbie, and she heard from your Auntie Nikki that your dad had left you something after he passed away." Reluctantly, I answered and said, "Yeah, something like that." She replied, "Well, that is good because he was not really there to take care of you when you were younger, so it is only right that he tries to take care of you now." And there is the snide comment. "Sure, Mom," I said. And she asked, "What did he leave you?" "Just some stuff." I was trying to steer the conversation elsewhere, but my mom would not have it, and she pushed like, "What?" I sighed, and I regret this so much, but I gave in and said, "He just left me some money, Mom. Do not worry about it." "What do you mean, do not worry about it? How much did he leave you? $1, $10, $100? She kept nagging, and I lied and said, "It is like $10,000, nothing too big." But it was substantially more. My mom then said to me, "Why are you lying to me? Auntie Debbie said it was over $1 million. I kind of felt my gut knot up at this and started to fear where this was heading. My dad had left me with a little more than $1.3 million, but I did not want to tell her. And I said, "Mom, why are you so concerned with this?" "Because after everything your dad put me through, that money should be going to me." "What? What are you talking about?" I was shocked because I knew my mom was selfish, but I did not think she would be that selfish. She went on and on about how my dad put her through hell, left her with a house and a big mortgage, and how she had to work so many jobs to make ends meet. She never asked him for child support, which was true, but she periodically asked him to pay for things like dance lessons, braces, eyeglasses, and more. And from the start, from what I can remember, he did pay for all those things. But as time went on, the financial support was not there as much. So my mom, though it was her own choice, had to fork out more money for my lessons. She then started talking about how because of my dad, she was now in the poor situation she was in. She eventually had to remortgage my childhood home, but she could not keep up the payments, so the house ended up getting foreclosed. My mom then started renting, had her car repossessed, utilities were cut, and creditors used to call the house so much to the point where I was afraid to answer the phone. Anyway, my mom was going on and on about how she deserved better after having given so much sacrifice of her life. She said, "So when you get that money, you can send it to me, okay?" She said that to me as if it was decided. I do not like arguing, especially with her, so it took everything in me to say this. "Mom, I get that you went through a lot when you and Dad split up. But that was a long time ago, and it is over. I am not going to be giving you all this money." I could hear how offended she was when she said, "Why not? Because Dad left the money to me, no one else. I can maybe help you with a few things, but that is it." She scoffed and said, "Are you kidding me? After everything I have done for you, you are going to be so disrespectful to me? I already told Auntie that you were going to send me at least half of it I raised you, so you owe me, there it is that." One line that my mom likes to bring up every so often, and the biggest reason why our relationship was so strained: "You owe me." I told her, "No, Mom, I do not owe you anything. I appreciate the fact that you raised me on your own, and you did a great job of it, but I am an adult now, and you are too. You cannot keep blaming Dad for everything bad that happened in your life, and you cannot keep coming to me for handouts." My voice was shaking, and I could hear the blood beat in my ears, preparing me for the next wave of shouting. And shouted she did. My mom snapped and went on and on about how ungrateful I was, about the sacrifices she made for me, how she had a line of men asking to date her but she never dated any of them, and how people felt so sorry for her that her husband ditched her and her child, and how as an adult her child will not even try to help her out. She brought up things she did for me when I was younger, brought up the old fights we had and how I was not being a good daughter. After that, I told her I am not having this conversation with her, that I will wait until she is calm and can act like a freaking adult. Then I hung up on her. Obviously, that did not go well because she started spamming my phone call after phone call. but I ignored them all. Eventually, I shut off my phone and went to take a nap because I was mentally exhausted from her. The only thing that stopped her from showing up at my doorstep was because she lived on the other side of the country, and she did not have the funds to suddenly hop on a plane. It is upsetting, but I came to accept that my mom will never be the person I hope she would be. I did not talk to her for a couple of weeks, but when I finally did, she was trying so hard to get on my good side, trying to be as nice as possible, but it was fake kindness. My mom never saw a cent of that inheritance. Every so often the same argument would come up about how she is owed money from my dad and how I owe her my life. We have never come to an agreement, and I stayed firm on my decision to not give her anything. I did hire some 24/7 care for my grandfather so that someone more capable can be there in case there is an emergency. It is so unfortunate that the only reason Opie's mom came in contact with her was to demand that inheritance. So, I have a question for you guys. If you suddenly came into an inheritance of over $1 million, how do you think your family would treat you? Do you have any entitled family members that would demand you share or think they are owed something, like Opie's mother? Please leave your comments below because I would love to know. This next story is titled, Mom Begs for Money Despite Buying New House and Car. A little backstory, my mom, who is on Social Security disability insurance, has a very hard time budgeting. She is in the top tier, almost $2,800 a month. Last year, she decided to sell my grandparents' house in Oregon to move back to the Seattle area. She got the house by having my grandmother with dementia change the will and cut out her 2 siblings, my uncle and aunt. And after my grandmother passed, the house and all the savings and belongings went to my mom. So she sells the house, and instead of buying a reasonable home, she buys herself and her 3 cats a 4,000 square foot home in a gated community. There was literally no money left over from the sale and acquisition of the new home. I even had to help by paying for a moving van and helpers. Before this, she had a settlement from a slip-and-fall lawsuit of roughly $50,000, which she instantly rolls into a brand-new 2018 Toyota Highlander. She then backs into a tree and busts the taillight on it and decides that she needs a brand-new 2019 fully loaded Highlander. She trades in her 2018 with 5,000 miles on it and takes out a $35,000 car loan. So here is like $80,000 of car at this point. Excellent. She is constantly begging my bro, sis, and I for money and thinks we should all bail her out of certain situations that she gets herself into. My brother is 38, I am 36, my sister is 27, and we are all trying to establish ourselves in our lives, careers, and financial security. Well, she brought up money the other day when she came up to our apartment to visit the grandkids, saying she did not have enough money to pick up her prescriptions. I told her I could spare her 15% for gas money, but that was all. I explained that we are a family of 4 living on 1 income and we have a tight budget. A reminder that she has had plenty of opportunity to save or spend her money more wisely. So she takes the 15 and goes. I get a call the next day of her crying, saying that the way I brought up her poor money choices was terribly upsetting, pretty much making me out to be the villain and her the victim. This self-victimizing routine is her go-to. It is exhausting because I have done so much for her. I put my life on hold for 5 years after college to be her full-time caretaker since she fell and needed a hip replacement and then got hooked on opiates. I could not hold down a job or any healthy relationships because I was constantly being called back home to take her to doctor's appointments, etc. She thinks she is entitled to us always bailing her out of situations. I could literally write a novel in all the ways I have helped her. I feel like this post is a novella anyway. Darn her for trying to make me out to be the bad guy because I do not give her money to get extra prescriptions to fuel her addiction. And darn her for even putting it out there and begging my family for money when she has so much. And lastly, darn her for never respecting my boundaries when I need to preserve my well-being. After her sob story phone call, I was so upset, and it took me a few hours to get my head on straight. OP, in my humble opinion, you and your siblings have your own families to take care of. I am in a similar situation where my mom's pretty much bleeding her and my father's retirement savings because she is constantly spending on unnecessary things, and then she calls us asking for money. I do not want to share too much information because I know sometimes she checks up on this channel and I do not want a butt kicking, but she knows how I feel. I love you, Mama. After reading these stories, I've been thinking a lot about them. The kid finds a bike in my backyard. Mom goes berserk. When I take it back story had me shaking my head. I feel for OP, a single dad scraping by, only to deal with a kid stealing his daughter's new bike and an entitled mom demanding it as finders keepers. Calling the cops? Delusional. I love how OP's receipt shut her down, and her tantrum landing her in cuffs was pure karma. Teach kids not to trespass, folks. Entitled mom wants to skip the line, gets a lot more than she wanted is infuriating. I'd have refused her line cutting too. TV shows aren't an emergency. Leaving her kid in a hot car? Criminal negligence. OP's quick action saved that child, and the off-duty cop's intervention was perfect. I hope she faced serious charges. Prioritizing shows over a kid's life is despicable. My entitled sister wants me to house my niece for free during uni hits home on family entitlement. I get OP's refusal. Loud, messy niece, cat allergies, and no rent? No way. The Family Helps Family card doesn't mean free rides. OP's offer of $250 a month was generous. The sister's tantrum proves her entitlement. Boundaries matter, especially with your sanity at stake. My mother demands my $1 million inheritance is gut-wrenching. I admire OP's strength standing up to a mom weaponizing guilt over raising her. That "you owe me" line is toxic. Parents choose to raise kids, not indenture them. Keeping the $1.3 million was right. Her greed doesn't deserve reward. Hiring care for grandpa was kind enough. Mom begs for money despite buying new house and car, screams fiscal irresponsibility. I feel OP's exhaustion, caretaking for years, yet mom guilt trips for more cash after splurging on a mansion and cars. Her victim act is manipulative. OP's right to prioritize their family. Set firm boundaries. OP, love doesn't mean enabling. And my friends, that wraps up another episode of our /Entitled People. If you guys enjoyed the stories in this episode, be sure to check out my last episode if you missed it. It's an absolutely hilarious story, so check it out if you haven't. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.